Welcome to the next video in my product launch series. I'm taking you along in basically real time so that hopefully it can help some of you see what's involved. In this video we'll be covering product testing. Don't ever skip this step, it's really important. We're going to be testing the stability of our product to ensure that it's stable for our customer and also to help identify the shelf life. I know there are many of you that really are in quite a hurry to start a brand, but if that's you, I suggest buying in white label products or looking at flexi CPSRs because it will be a quicker route to market for you. Because if you want to start formulating properly, you really do need to spend the time doing stability, and it is not a fast process. I'm pleased to say that this video is sponsored by ISCA Cosmetic Labs. They actually have their own line of preservatives. I'm going to be chatting to Georgia Morgan from the lab a bit later on in this video, and I'll leave all links to their social media and their website below. They've also very kindly offered a discount code to my viewers off your first purchase on their website of preservatives or testing services, so you can check that out below as well. As I've previously mentioned, my own products, which are going to be cold processed soaps to start off with, I have been testing for over a year and a half now. So I'm going to go through the process I went through to stability test those and show you all of that in this video. So to start my testing, I made a 10 bar soap loaf. I just used one of these purple molds, and I made my bars and basically weighed them every couple of days to a week until they had lost all of their water weight, and then I knew that they were fully cured. They're safe to use within 24 to 48 hours. All the lye would have been completely saponified, but you do want to wait for the bars to harden enough because the experience in using them will be a lot better. Obviously, if you've made a different product from soap bars that doesn't need to cure for 4 weeks, you can move on to the next step, which is testing your product. So given I'd made 10 bars, I think I've got enough to test. So the first one went straight in the shower and I just used it until it used up. And then I noted any changes, so colour, scent, texture, anything like that, and roughly how many washes I got out of it until it was too small to use. The second bar went on a shelf at room temperature and just sat there. And again, I noted any changes weekly to see if it smelt any less, if the colours changed, if I got any soda ash, things like that. Just an observation test basically, and I did that in real time, so it has been about a year and a half for most of my bars. The other stability testing I did was wrapped in its final packaging, which is the Videography biodegradable shrink film. The reason I use this is because it actually prolongs the shelf life of the bar. The scent stays longer, the colour stays longer. It's just a good option. If you want to know more about the Videography, I do have a blog post I've written all about why I use that. I'll link that below. Other bars were shrink wrapped again in the National Shrink Wrap System Videography, and I performed the freeze thaw system. So basically what that is I'll pop a soap in the freezer for 24 hours and then I'll remove it for 24 hours to let it thaw out, and then I'll do that again 2 more times. If there's no changes or no significant changes, that will give me a shelf life of 6 months. However, doing this twice does not give you a shelf life of a year, so you can't just perform that twice and extend your shelf life. It doesn't work like that. And also, if you were to do this in a lab, there would be an extra step, and that is to put it in a heated environment of about 40 to 50 degrees C. So if you do have an incubator, then you can do that step. There's also a quicker way to do this, and we'll chat a bit about that with Georgia from ISCA in a minute. Of course, I still have lots of bars left, so what did I do with those? I repeated the same tests with those just to make sure, and again noted all the data down on my stability data test sheets. These need to go to your assessor when you apply for your CPSR. If you have a product that contains water, then that would also need challenge testing, which means it needs to go to a lab for that. However, to ensure that it passes and you're not paying multiple times to have it retested, I suggest that you invest in some dip slides. I'll link them below. There's also a discount code from dip slides so that you can get some money off your first order. And what that means is that you can test your products prior to sending them off to be sure that they will pass. Obviously, you need to be doing this once when you have your formula. You shouldn't need to do it again unless your formula changes, but I do recommend you have the dip slides so that every time you make a batch of product, you can test it before you send it to your customers. This is only for water-based products. Of course, soaps and anhydrous products don't count. You just need to do stability on those. If you do have water-based products and you do the dip slides test and it fails, then you need to be looking at your ingredient suppliers, making sure that your supply chain is good and responsibly sourced. And you also need to look at your GMP practices to make sure that you are making the products as hygienically as you can, that all your equipment and your surfaces and your room is clean, and that you are formulating properly. We're now going to jump on a call with Georgia Morgan, who is the head of testing at ISCA Cosmetic Services, and we're going to chat a bit to her about how you test your products, best practices, and how they can help you very affordably. Thank you for joining us, Georgia. I wondered if perhaps you could introduce ISCA for us, tell us where you're based and what you do.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Georgia. I actually work for ISCA in the ISCA Cosmetic testing sector of our company. So I head at that department. So ISCA as a whole, so initially we started as a specialised chemicals company, and we're based in Newport, South Wales. We have a whole range of preservatives. We've got a warehouse on site. We also have both a micro lab facility and a research and development facility on site as well. We work with customers globally, a lot of distributors ranging from Asia to Europe to here based in the UK, neighbours down the road, which is great. So we have a wide range of people that we work with, and we've recently been able to expand ourselves now, and we're now looking at helping smaller customers who aren't necessarily buying our preservatives, but we want to help people who are making small scale companies who are making soaps in their kitchen, from small to medium sized businesses basically, to help them with all the regulatory testing that they need.
Perfect. So that sounds really useful to especially lots of people that watch this channel and I know through business. Can you tell us a little bit about your stability testing and how that works?
Yeah, of course. We do a range of different testing, but obviously stability testing is one of these sort of awkward testing that we have come about. So it is actually required. So when you have your CPSR and your product information file for your product, you do need to have an aspect of stability testing. So it's really important, even though the regulations don't necessarily state exactly what you need to do. So with other testing, we have exact standards and methods we need to follow. With stability, they leave it to the individual's best knowledge, depending on what the product is, ranging from bath bombs to skin creams to just a basic soap. You adjust the test to fit what you have. So what we do here at ISCA, we offer an accelerated stability test. Obviously, we know that in the market, everyone wants to get their product as soon as possible. Yeah, it's a bit of a rush who can get it out first.
Yeah. I get people say to me, oh, I want to release like 10 different products and I want them in 5 months. And
it's a rush, and we completely understand it. Obviously, we would all be the same as well. So people in their houses, what they often do, they keep their product in its final packaging for a year, they store it away, they look at it every couple of months, just make sure everything's fine. What we can do, we offer a 12-week stability, and what we do, we offer this basically for customers who want to, and we pop their product into different temperatures and different conditions, ranging from room temperature down to freezing levels, and then to 50 degrees. The reason we do this, obviously, depending on where the customer intends on selling their product for a start, obviously depending where it is. For example, Turkey is a lot warmer than it is here in the UK. So we need to understand that. But basically what it does, we make sure that the packaging is suitable for the product. Obviously you don't want to put a product on the market that's not going to be suitable in a couple of months. We can make sure that the storage instructions are correct. We can also ensure that there's no damage during a couple of months, and we can advise you on that as well then.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's going to be really useful for a lot of people, I know.
We can measure different aspects. So obviously we normally measure the pH, the viscosity
Right.
of the sample, as well as the package integrity. For example, if someone has a lovely serum or a pump product and the viscosity changes over that period of time, the packaging may not be suitable then. Obviously it might not actually come out of the pump product, so we want to make sure that obviously the product is fine.
I see you also do challenge testing.
Yes.
For those that don't know what challenge testing is, can you explain a little bit about that and how that's performed?
Yeah, of course. Challenge testing, I would say, is our main focus, really. So within the European regulations, it's required for any product that's to be sold within the UK and Europe. Obviously, different challenge tests can be conducted. So there's various names you probably hear. PET testing, so that stands for preservative efficacy testing, challenge testing, other normal words, but then we have different variations such as European pharmacopoeia, United States pharmacopoeia, and we also have ISO test methods, which do all come under challenge testing. So it is a bit of a confusing term, but basically what it means is your product needs to go through this test method. So what we do here, it takes about a month. Any product that has any water contents needs this test. So if we get like a shampoo product in, for example, what we do, we inoculate this sample with various different bacteria, fungi, and yeast. The set standards, we inoculate them and then we test them at regular intervals then, just to make sure that the sample is able to be preserved properly, that there's no fungal growth, there's no contamination within the product, which can be seen obviously during making the product, or it could mean that the preservative isn't working effectively, or we often come across natural products that don't have preservatives and are struggling to keep up with the standards that need to be met to keep obviously the products and obviously safe for the consumer as well.
Yeah. What would you recommend to someone if they wanted a natural line and they needed to preserve it?
So
is there a go-to preservative for that?
We have this question all the time, and I completely agree. So everyone wants to find the perfect natural product for everything.
Yeah, so depending on your definition of natural, of course.
Yes, of course. Everyone has sort of their own different view of that.
Yeah.
So obviously preservative is great. Depending on your formulation, you can cheat it a little bit, I would say. And if you keep your pH quite low, quite acidic, sometimes obviously that helps as well. But we do have, for example, ISCA Guard, we do have a range of sort of natural preservatives then. So we have an Avon Vita range, and they are all natural. So you can use them. Obviously, companies such as like Lush, for example, they don't use preservatives because their products only last for about a month. So they have a shelf life, so there's ways around it. But so we always do recommend a preservative. A natural preservative isn't going to work as good as obviously the classic parabens and things like this that obviously we all want to stay away from. So we do have ISCA Guard IAF and AquaGuard NK12. They are natural products that are quite popular with customers and work well within their formulations, because one is actually Cosmos and EcoCert, which sort of fits in line with what the customers want their product to be.
Yeah, definitely. And they're available on your website, are they?
We have a small preservative range, so you can buy it in like a small sample, or you can obviously order in large amounts if you just want to test it.
Oh, excellent. Okay, I'll link to that below for everyone so they can check it out.
All our technical data sheets are available on there as well, so there should be, depending on what your product is, there should be like what it's used for, at what level, or what pH. So there's like an easy use guide on there as well.
Oh, excellent. Okay, that's exactly what people need. Okay, so I was looking at all your challenge testing and your products and everything, and I saw you have a specific vegan testing range. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, of course. So obviously anyone who's making cosmetics and in the industry at the moment know how quickly things turn around. But vegan testing is becoming more and more popular. I think The Body Shop was actually the first company to go live and say that all their products are vegan tested now. The natural challenge test method uses various media. Unfortunately, some of the media products do have animal digest products in them, which is so what we've done here at ISCA, we've actually come up with our own alternative. So we've replaced basically all of the media that had the animal digest products within it, and we've replaced it with a vegan alternative. So what we've actually produced a paper in personal care, because obviously I think the first question, is it comparable? Is it the same test? Is it going to work the same?
Yeah.
So we've done all that work basically. So we have a vegan alternative challenge test method. So if customers are promoting a vegan product and want the product, their whole marketing experience to be vegan, we can also support that with the vegan testing as well. And we can issue a certificate to say it's vegan, and we've actually been certified with the Vegan Society.
Amazing.
Yeah, we've worked alongside them quite well. So we've got all the support from them. They've signed off a lot of our test methods and some of our preservatives as well, just to support that customer. And obviously, if that's what their aim for that product is.
Fantastic. I've got a lot of people with vegan ranges that do worry about that. So that's nice to know that you do that, because I can forward them to them.
I know it's popular. It's getting really popular at the moment. So it is nice that there is that alternative for customers as well.
Yeah, it's the vegan natural thing, and it's just finding the right ingredients, the right testing, right everything for it. It's a difficult workflow unless you've got companies like yourself. Yes. Got many different and quite affordable testing methods on your website. Which would you recommend for a small home-based skincare cosmetics business that was selling only anhydrous products? Because we find that in over here, because there is the challenge testing element, a lot of people shy away from that. So as a first port of call, they make the oil-based formulas. So what sort of testing would you recommend for that?
So obviously I completely understand if I was in that position, that completely anhydrous products is the first step in the right direction. So obviously stability testing. So obviously any oil-based product, any product doesn't contain water, doesn't need the challenge testing like you said. So that's eradicated that cost and that stress of going through that process. So we would just recommend stability testing. So obviously we offer the 12-week stability, which tests a range of conditions as well. And it's nice basically to prove and collect as much data on this product as you can. Your CPSR assessor then will look at the information that you have and will double check with you to make sure that you've done everything possible in your power to do that. Depending on the product as well, you can go for different sort of claims testing and things like that, but depending on what the product is, if we've got a shampoo or if we've got something like a dry product that you want to use and prove something, we can also go down that road as well. But I think initially, if you want one standard test just to be all done with it, it's the stability testing for anhydrous products, just to get that in the bag, have your report issued, signed off by us or another testing house, gives that confidence to the assessor as well.
Yeah. So that's stability testing for anhydrous products. So what tests specifically would you recommend for people, small businesses that want to expand into water-based formulas, like a shampoo or a body wash or something like that?
So obviously once you've sort of mastered your anhydrous products, the easiest formulations I would take, like the next step would be like shampoo cleansing products, which are still water-based. And then we would move on sort of the emulsions, just because they work a bit differently. So then we'd say master the shampoos, things like that. And then once you've got your confidence, once you think you've got your ingredients that you want to use, your product range, then move on to like various different emulsions. So skin creams, like skin masks and things like this. My one thing to everyone who is making these sort of products is be very careful with the raw materials that you use. So for example, we get a lot of customers come to us with like clay masks. And clay is the most difficult thing to preserve in the world.
Yes, it is.
We have a lot of problems we need to overcome with this. Just always be very cautious with the raw ingredients that you are using, and sometimes less more. We don't need to add 100 different ingredients just to make this new shampoo. It still can be at your base, work on that. What we do offer to our clients who are like pushing into this new barrier, we do offer a package deal. So this is where, obviously we mentioned the stability for the anhydrous products. This is that includes the challenge testing as well then. So we offer a package to customers for the challenge test and the stability test. So it's one easy payment, one off, all done, all sent at the same time, and it can be continued at the same time. Obviously, I think we mentioned sort of speed of testing as well. We can initiate these samples at the same time. So we're not waiting 4 weeks for the challenge test and then the additional 12 for stability. We're starting it all at once. We can do it's much quicker. But so I always do push that, and it is a lot cheaper actually to get a package together, and we can work on that together, which makes a lot of sense. We always do say that preservatives don't compensate for poor housekeeping. That like ISCA's sort of is, let's say.
Yeah.
Because no matter how you produce your formulation product, just by adding 0.5% of benzyl alcohol, let's say, does not completely eradicate everything that is already contaminated in the product. So it just promotes and prevents the efficacy, obviously, of the product. So we do also bear that in mind. So obviously, go from anhydrous products, you don't need this challenge test. It's just the additional, you want to keep in mind the additional things you need to consider now that you are going to be putting it through a microbial challenge test.
So you've got different types of challenge tests, which we touched on a bit before. Would the one that you pick change dependent on your water-based formulation or where you were in the world? How do we know which one to pick?
Obviously, if you're based in the UK and Europe, it's going to be European Pharmacopoeia, which is quite easy to remember. It's often labelled like EP.
Okay.
Like you said, depending on the product, it is not so much the product. If it's got water in it, it needs a challenge test. If it's going to be in Europe, it's an EP. It is actually recognised globally. So even if you did eventually start your company, a small company in London, let's say, and you want to expand further down the line in a couple of years, but the same product range, we obviously know that's going to be a cost as well. So getting that EP, as long as your formulation doesn't change, you can keep that EP and you'll never need to do any of the testing again.
Brilliant.
But say if you are a small company and you're only planning to sell to America, you're not going to sell in the UK and you're selling to America, you can get the United States Pharmaco, which is completely fine, but obviously then that doesn't allow you to sell in the UK. So just to reduce future costs, we always do say the EP is the best one to have. It's also the hardest challenge test to pass. So if your product passes this test, it will pass all others. There won't be any issues. So we always do recommend it. Sort of the standards that European legislation has is a lot higher and a lot more difficult compared to other countries in the world. So if you've passed this, you've got that sort of gold standards, you've got everything. So that's what we would always promote.
Okay. And a question I get quite a lot, actually, just to follow on from that, is how often do you need to be challenge testing a formula? Say I've made a lotion formula and I stick with that formula. Is it a one-time challenge test or do I have to come back to you when I've made another batch?
So once you've done the challenge test, you've got a pass result, obviously. You've got your CPSR and you've got the product on the market. As long as that formulation does not change, you will never need to challenge test that product again. So it's like a one-off payment that you need to do. Obviously, if you start tweaking bits and the formulation just change, you will need to do a challenge test again.
Then you do it again.
As long as nothing changes, you are completely fine. It's a one-off test and it's done. It's out of sight. It's done, out of mind. One and done.
Yeah. It's actually a lot more affordable than I first thought when I looked on your website, especially with your packages. That makes it really accessible for people. So following on from that, because you touched on the preservative efficacy and things, any tips for people for GMP to keep their workspace hygienic and clean for making products before they send it for challenge testing?
Yeah, so obviously this is a question we get asked quite a lot because often some products we have will just marginally fail and it will be a smaller customer who's making it in a kitchen or like a sort of set in the house or like a small business. So this might sound really just common sense, but a good surface cleaner completely. Make sure you clean down everything that you use. So the mixers, if you have an actual mixer, or even just spoons and things like that, just make sure they're cleaned with a hard surface cleaner. Our lab downstairs, when we play around with formulations, everything is completely clean. Everything is sterile. What I would say as well is to sterilize packaging sometimes if you can.
Yeah.
So if you, for example, are putting a cream or like sort of shampoo in a glass jar, sometimes pop it in the oven, which is something that everyone has at home, or like a warm drying rack just to make sure it's clean and sterile, completely dry with no water left in it. That also helps like extreme amounts, like small sort of things like that. If you can have those facilities to use that, obviously. And we do say if products are made when it gets like the manufacturing area, it's limited air exposure. So obviously if you're it's a lovely summer's day and you're making a batch of creams and soaps and got all the windows open, it sounds really silly, but to reduce that is extremely important. So in our micro lab facility, it's completely sterile environment. We're not allowed any windows open ever. And it makes sure the product we're testing is not affected by any environments as well. So especially if you've got a natural product that can easily be contaminated, you just want to reduce that as well.
Okay, that's really good information, because I know a lot of soap makers, or if we're using powders, we'll open a window because we want to be careful with our breathing in. Obviously, respirators are a key thing.
Yes.
But yeah, I think maybe when after the lie's mixed up, window closed.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Following on from the clean workspace and the challenge testing and stability testing, you also mentioned you do claims testing.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, it's a new area that we've decided to delve into, which is really interesting, actually. So claims testing is a very sticky situation when it comes to your labelling. I think you'll all agree, we've all seen gone basic soaps like kills 99.99% bacteria.
Yeah.
10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever is plastered on the soap bottle. So basically we can run that test. When you do put anything on your labelling, your promote, or when you market a product, you need to be very careful in the wording that you use, because we don't want to cross over into medical realms of things.
Yeah.
We don't want to say treats dry skin, because then that comes into sort of the medical things.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we're just sticking to the cosmetic side of things. We run a few different claims testing. Our most popular one, I would say, is our antibacterial, antimicrobial kill test. So we normally get cleansers or feminine wash products, and we want to say that it kills 99.99% bacteria in whatever the time frame thing. Our standard set times are 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2, 3, and 5. But some customers come to us and they say, oh, we want to show that our product kills so much in 10 seconds. Obviously,
they're all one-upping each other. We're accustomed
to it now. Depending on what the customer wants and what the product is, like I mentioned, we can change the times depending on what the need is. So our antibacterial test is a basic mixture, nice cocktail mix of all the disgusting bacteria that we have that lies around on surfaces, like day-to-day life. We do often get customers, for example, in Spain, there's a particular bacteria called Burkholderia. They have some issues with that, so they've requested that we test against it as well. And like I mentioned, feminine hygiene products, a yeast called Candida, which is obviously to prove that it does kill, and obviously then that they can stick that out in labelling, and that's the promotional market sector. So alongside the sort of bacteria ones, we've also got in the works anti-dandruff claims. So I'm sure everyone's seen it on a shampoo bottle. I think Heather's pings to mind. Then, so what we can do, if people have a shampoo bar, for example, or like a shampoo product, what we can do, we can just do a kill test of how dandruff grows on the skin, can create the conditions that is on the scalp, and then we can sort of give that it reduces the growth of this culture, so it proves anti-dandruff. So if you did stick that on the label, you'd need this report to go into your product information file. We've also got, I believe in the works, we've got an anti-treatment as well. So we're growing the culture for, so for example, any face washes that you want to we've got that test as well. And we've also got a really rogue one, which is quite nice to add, athlete's foot, which is quite a rogue one that we've added to the catalogue, which is quite fun at the moment. So it has spray that might add some treatment for athletes, but that's something we can test against as well. But obviously the worlds are oyster with claims, so we often take requests. So if someone has a new thing that they want to prove that it reduces kills or something like that, we're always open to look into it. So it's more beneficial and fun for us as well, so we can look at these things for customers. It's quite fun to see how these products produce it, which is quite bizarre. But so if anyone comes to us saying this is their project to achieve, we also research to it as well, which is quite fun for us as well as the test.
That sounds really interesting, actually. Possibly a bit disgusting as well in some cases.
It normally is quite disgusting. And like when I look at these things.
You mentioned about preservatives, and we touched upon it a little bit earlier, but what's a good all-rounder broad spectrum preservative that you offer that would be good for a beginner formulator?
Beginner formulators. So obviously it depends on what the product is. So we have a range that I mentioned. We've got Aquabar, which is an EcoCert registered product. Something implies that that's quite a good product. So if you want to use baby products as well, that's one we would as well. So we do have a range of different ones. We've got ISCA Guard IAF. So if customers want a natural product, completely natural in that sort of way, that's the product to use. So we've got an all-rounder for ISCA Guard PEHG, which is great. We've also got ISCA Guard PFA. So this is classed as, it's preservative free, classified as. Obviously, again, if like your customer's looking for that sort of thing, it's not classed as a preservative within the EU, but it can be used as a preservative. So that's often quite popular with our customers. So obviously, when people want to say parabens free or preservative free, that's quite a popular selling point for some of our customers as well. We also have a range of products that include benzyl alcohol. That's quite a popular product that people do use and have their own sort of blends of it as well. This is an acidic preservative, so anything with like benzyl. But with any preservative, what you use very dependent on the pH of the initial formulation. So if we have products, people that come to us and their formulation fails sometimes, I'll be like, oh, we'll check the pH, we'll evaluate it, and it could be a pH of 6. Yeah. This doesn't work with the preservative. So obviously, depending on which preservative you choose, they normally have a working range. The lower the preservative, normally the better efficacy you're going to get and the most you're going to get from that preservative. Like I mentioned before, I think on our website, we've got technical data sheets and we've got the ranges that the preservative works in. So you can pair up if your formulation sort of matches with it. And it will also say if it's good for like emulsions or if it's preservative free, and it's got a category as well. But we always do say to customers, if you can keep that pH a little bit lower, I think I've got a graph somewhere that we've done work on before, and even dropping the pH from 6 to 5 or like 5.5 is a dramatic increase in the efficacy and working properties. So that's like what we always sort of aim our customers to. If you can just drop that even just the tiniest bit, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of people are a bit worried about parabens in their preservatives and things like that. So what would you say to those people to make them feel a bit better?
Demise works really well as a preservative. Obviously, there's a lot of backlash behind it, which is understandable. So obviously, as someone making new formulations, you want to steer away and you don't want any of that sort of to follow you. So we do have like a broad range of preservatives because we are tailoring to the market that's ever changes. So we do have our old school preservatives, we call them. So we've got like ISCA Guard CMI and parabens like chlorphenicin, like strong products need to be used in very small doses. And then we have our more natural range. We have our NK12s, we have our IAF, which is our natural blend, which in the grand scheme of things, if you look at it like from a cost perspective as well, the old school parabens ones are cheaper and they work more efficiently. Whereas when we're having to put money into these new products, they're a lot more expensive. And also we have to use them at high quantities just because they don't have that strength behind them that obviously the old school chemicals then do. This is like a big issue within the sort of preservative trade as well, because obviously new trends come out all the time. I think people always have sort of an idea of what's wrong of the month. Oh, we can't use this. And then in a couple of years' time, it's like fashion trends just flip round in a couple of years. So it's one of those things. And I would like to stress that everything in the UK and Europe especially is REACH regulated. So every preservative, all the chemicals that are used have been thoroughly researched. They are safe for their use as long as it's used sensibly or in accordance with the technical data sheets and with what product you're using it in. But it depends. It's like I say, it's completely up to the customer what they want. From a marketing perspective, if I was in their shoes, you don't want to have the most hated chemical of the month in your product because people aren't obviously going to go for it. So it's like with anything, like changing, we either want to steer away from it, but we are researching, especially within our company as well. We're looking for that more natural. We're trying to find that natural preservative that works just as well as the old school to keep up with everybody else. And natural, everyone does want the natural logo. They want to promote it and we want to keep doing that. Yeah, like I said, up to the customer, what they want. But at the end of the day, they're still going to have to label every ingredient they use on their product. So they're going to have to be happy with every ingredient that they've sourced it from whoever, and they're going to have that on board when they promote that product.
Focus on what it does have.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm so sick of seeing know this, know that, and it's some of those ingredients are really good.
Yeah, I think it's the new one might be. Sorry, SLS free is the new one for shampoos.
Yeah,
but it's a really good cleansing agent and it works really well.
Yeah, we had that in the because I used to do hair extensions, still do hair extensions. And you have to be careful of the little resin bonds because things can break them down. So there was a whole sort of SLS free thing with that because the salt can actually break down the bonds. But you do also need that cleansing because the build-up will deteriorate them as well. Just all these things just came out and then it just became complete non-information.
No, and I think it's then bigger what it is. Like you hear SLS now, everyone instantly thinks, oh, that's bad. Like I don't know why, but that's bad.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying with some of these videos to get the educated people on like yourself to explain these things a bit better than I can to just get rid of all these myths because I think soon people are going to be boycotting water.
Yeah, that'll be them. We can't use that.
Yeah,
it is. And it is, we do have to tailor to whatever fanatic is going on at the moment.
Yeah, oh God, it must be terrible. Okay, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today. It's been really interesting and I think it's going to help a lot of people because this is all far more accessible, far more affordable and a lot easier to understand now.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add before I sign off?
Well, I just want to say
and leave you to your lab day.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me. Obviously, it is quite nice to have this interaction. Obviously, it's a very daunting process if you are making that. We want to make it as easy as possible. I think our website is even, so we've tailored it to make it an online shop, just to make it for the customer. The only thing I did want to say, if anyone does have any questions about anything that they're making, even if you don't want to test with us or just like getting the feelers out there of what you need to do, what you can and can't do your product, please reach out. Like it's just as interesting to us it is to you guys making the product. So yeah, I think you'll have all my contact information, but feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or on our website and email and just let us know. And we'd be happy to help anyway. We want that because for smaller customers, it is hard. Obviously, I think everyone's got this perception that it's only big customers and the big companies who are making these things, but it's becoming ever more popular that everyone wants the small household names and brands to promote. And we want that as well. So of course, just please feel free to reach out anytime. But yeah, thank you. It's been lovely speaking with you.
That's all right. What an amazing resource. And thank you for offering that to everyone because that's brilliant. Oh, you'll get loads of emails now.
Let's hope so.
But I'll pop all your details down in the description box for everyone. So you can go and check them out on YouTube. You can go and look at their website. You can email Georgia and annoy her with all your questions.
That's fine.
And thank you very much for coming on. And I'm sure we'll speak again.
Yes, hopefully, yes. Thank you.
Thanks very much to Georgia from ISCA for taking the time to talk to us. I hope you found that very useful. I know I did. The links and the discount code and everything that we mentioned is below, so go and check that out. Thank you to them for sponsoring this video. The next video in this series will be about CPSRs and where to get them, so make sure you get your stability done and I'll see you in the next video. And if you want a printable version of this, then it'll be available on my Patreon.